Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be painting Shea Couleé. She's one of my favorite drag queens and just won season 5 on All Stars. So I started this sketch in Procreate and then printed it out onto watercolor paper. Now I'm masking it off. I wanted to preserve a border and also try and prevent too much warping. I decided for this painting that I wanted to experiment a little bit with liquid frisket. So I'm using a liquid frisket to mask off some lens flares. The reference image that I found for this painting was off Shea Couleé's Instagram page, and it was actually a video, probably like a Snapchat video, because it had a ton of different effects on it. Really glowy, sparkly effects, and I wanted to see if I could try and capture that. So I started masking off areas. I'm using a brush for this. I find it's the easiest tool to get detail. So what I would recommend and what I did at the beginning of using this frisket was dip my brush in water, and then I ran it through a little container of brush soap that I have, and that coats the bristles and makes it so that when you're done using the frisket, you can rinse it off and it just comes off the brush so easily. Liquid frisket is basically like liquid rubber, and if you apply it directly to a brush and it dries, it will be stuck in that brush forever. Just so I'm not being wasteful, I try and protect my brush. So I decided here that I wanted to use a wet on wet technique for the background. So I've laid down a bunch of just clean water, and now I'm going in with some paint. I'm using the paint palette that I've had for a while now. It's a Schminke paint palette, and I believe these two colors are Potter's Pink and Mountain Blue. They didn't come with the set that I bought them separately, but I just thought that they would be the perfect like cotton candy colors for the background of this painting. So I'm just trying to create some drifts and blooms to simulate a soft focus look in the background here. So now I'm starting to layer up color for Shea Couleé's face. Shea has such a beautiful like buttery caramel skin tone. Although it's really rich, I knew that I wanted to make sure there was some preserved highlight areas because of how soft and glowy the reference material I had was. So I knew it was going to take a really long time to kind of get the right tones. I really wanted the face, or the skin at least, to look very smooth, so I take a lot of time kind of adjusting edges and softening things after they've dried, just so the skin looks really even and smooth. So the brushes that I'm using are synthetic brushes, and they're from the brand Raphael. At least this one is. It's a mop brush and it holds a lot of liquid. So it's good for broader areas, and it still comes to a point, so you can get little detail areas. Now this brush is another synthetic brush from the brand Princeton. It's a Princeton Snap brush, and I love these brushes because they are not expensive and they come to really nice points. So they don't hold a ton of water, but they're fine. They're nice and springy. I really enjoy working with them. So I usually always pull out a Princeton Snap to paint with. At this point, I decided to move on to the hair. I find sometimes when you're painting, you need to establish the values that you know, and I started to feel a little bit frustrated, feeling like I didn't know where to go with the skin tone. So sometimes I find when I am getting stuck on a painting, it's a good idea to switch to an area that I know needs to be dark. Because once I establish those dark areas, it's a bit easier for me to find the rest of the values. So I'd gotten to a point on the face where I kind of felt like I wasn't sure how dark I wanted to take it. And I knew I wanted it to be a bit darker, but I wasn't quite sure how much darker. So I decided to move on to the hair and really nail down those dark areas. So the reference material that I pulled from for this painting was from Shea Couleé's Instagram feed. Now, Shea Couleé had posted this, I believe, before even announcing that she was going to be on All Stars. And when I saw this image, I could not believe what I was seeing. She looked incredible. She didn't even really look like Shea Couleé from what I had remembered from season 9. I almost didn't recognize her, because I don't know about you guys, but I am a huge fan of Drag Race. I've seen every season 2 or 3 times through. I can't get enough, and I just could not believe how incredible Shea looked. It felt like inspired by like 50s like Motown singers. The skinny eyebrows, the big lashes, and the hair is nuts. I think, I could be wrong, but I think I remember seeing another picture too, and the wig is inspired by a RuPaul look, like an old RuPaul look. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I saw a picture of RuPaul back in the day with a wig just like this. But how fun, like how fabulous is this wig? It's incredible. And I knew I wanted to paint a drag queen very early on in this channel, and I plan on doing more. Because Shea Couleé had just won season 5, it just felt natural to revisit Shea's Instagram and find some good reference to pull from for this painting. So the fun thing about watercolor is that it always dries lighter than you're expecting, which makes painting kind of scary at first, because you put something down and you think that's what you want, and then it lightens and you don't know where all your color went, or you think you put down too much and it's actually the right amount. So I find watercolor painting is a patience game. You have to be willing to let it dry and go back over it, and let it dry and go back over it over and over and over again. At least for me, that's the best way I've found for working with it. I tend to err on the side of caution so frequently while I paint that I end up having to touch things over, but I think the look that you get with all the layers is so beautiful. So now that I have the hair at a place where I'm like fairly happy with, I decided to go back into the face and kind of establish a little bit more detail. I'm fussed around with the nose quite a bit and decided to try applying some of the makeup to her eyes. Such a beautiful like rosy color. I mixed some of that background Potter's pink in with another red, and then brought the same color into the lips. One fun trick that I've found to help me with color theory is you pick a color and then you put it everywhere. So I like to incorporate colors that I've used in the background, the exact same color, into other areas. And it takes a lot of the guesswork out of painting. Instead of having to pick a new color for every single thing you paint, you can, pick one color for one thing and then introduce it in other areas of your painting. And it helps the eye bounce around, I think, while you're looking at a piece. So tell me, guys, who's your favorite drag queen? I don't know if I could personally narrow it down to one. I think I might be able to narrow it down to like 3 or 5. But I'd love to do more of these paintings. They're so much fun. And I definitely have ideas. I was thinking about maybe going through all of the All-Stars winners first, because they're all super great. This season, All-Stars 5, the last 3 queens were just all so good. Part of me feels like I would have been happy if any of them won, although just based off of everything that happened to Shea in season 9 at the finale, I think we were all kind of just like, at least I was rooting for her. It seems kind of unfair sometimes to only be able to pick one winner, since, Miss Cracker and Jujubee are also favorites of mine. So it was hard just personally picking a favorite for this season. So now I'm just trying to intensify areas, deepen things up, get some of the darker values in to the skin and makeup. To be honest with you guys, at this point I was feeling kind of frustrated with the skin tone, and then also the nose shape and the eyes. I was just kind of feeling quite frustrated. I really enjoy capturing likeness, and this one I didn't quite capture it exactly. I think I definitely made the nose a little bit too small, and there's something not quite right. Just fine. I still am happy with the way that the painting ended up turning out, but it's funny when you're working on something, you just, sometimes you just start to hate it, and that's okay. You can see as the watercolor starts to dry, the edges harden up and become quite rigid. So once they're closer to being dry, I go in with just a little bit of water on my brush and just soften them out. So as you can see here, I'm still quite unhappy with the area around the eyes, and how that's turning out is just not looking right, and I'm getting frustrated and making a mess. So I ended up taking a break around the time I finished the dress, just maybe like a 30-minute break, just to reset and look at it with fresh eyes. This is where I came back to it. I decided, you know what, I'll remove the frisket and maybe it'll help inform me of where this painting needs to go. And I knew that I would have to likely introduce some gouache into this just to get the really sharp highlight down the bridge of her nose. So it's just hard to know sometimes when is the right time to introduce those sorts of things. So I thought maybe play around a little bit with the lighting, the little lens flares all over this thing, and then add some details here and there. And that's often all that it needs, So here I'm using the white gouache that I mentioned to add details and to make things pop. Now, as you can see, it's it dries down quite flat and a lot darker than you're expecting. So I ended up going over those eyes and the little dots, I think 2 or 3 times, just to get the opacity I was looking for. It goes on quite opaque and bright, and then it'll dry down. I think sometimes the hardest part of painting is looking at an unfinished painting and trying at least to remind yourself that it's going to be great when it's done. Sometimes when I'm painting, at least, I just start hating it and it doesn't feel like it's ever going to get there, but it always gets there, you know? Once you add a little bit of something in one area, and it'll help you kind of see what another area needs. So once I finished with Shea's makeup and really kind of getting those details in there, I could tell that the background was not intense enough. So here I am just going through and really trying to get some more color. I felt like the lens flare effect just wasn't strong enough, and if I went through and added some more depth to the background, they would pop a lot more. And here's the finished piece. Now I've decided to make this painting into a print for my Etsy shop. You can find the link to my shop in the video description. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll be posting a new video every week.